guys, thanks for joining me to color. So I had a request to color up this adorable Lily of the Valley Sledging Fun boy. The person I talked to was having a little bit of difficulty, so I thought I would hop on here and color him up so that you and she can see how I would do it. So I printed my boy out on Neenah 80-pound solar white cardstock, and when I put him onto my sheet that is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, I made him 50% of the size he originally was so he'd fit on this sheet of paper. So I reduced him. So the next thing I did is I went to Google and I typed in here Lily of the Valley Sledging Fun, and I go to images, and then I kind of look through to see how other people have colored him. So here's one that I found on Pinterest that has this adorable boy with the red hat and the beautiful blue around the outside. And I'm thinking that maybe this one was maybe watercolored, but it doesn't say. So you could go to further and investigate him more, but let's go back. So that one's really cute. And I thought this one was really cute, with the brown hat and then the bright purple pink coat. So that's the very first thing I do. And then after I do that, and I've kind of decided on an image that I like, I will go look for paper. So that's my next thing, is to go and search for some paper. And then once I found the paper, then I will get out my Sandy Allnock hex chart that I've colored up, and I will pick colors of pens that will match the paper I use. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of do a Christmas theme. So we're going to use reds and browns on our little image today. I probably will not be making him into a card, but that is my plan. So let's zoom down. So since he's outside, and the little image I like first had the background with the blue around the outside, let's go ahead and do that first. So I'm going to reach down and get my pens. So I'm going to try B00, 000, quadruple 0, and my colorless blender. Even though the one in the picture was way darker, I think that's going to be a little too much for me. So I'm going to start with the B00, which is the darkest. So let's go with that where you want to have the most shadows. So I would go with that underneath of his scarf a little bit. And if you do this first, then you don't have to worry about getting any on him because you can erase it. And then we'll go down here where his coat's kind of underneath. And then right here, he's got his little scarf that's under. So let's do that. Okay, and then let's do a little bit here behind his leg. And then let's see, over here his arm is over the top of his leg. So let's do in this. And we'll do a little bit underneath of his hat. Oops, and I colored his hair blue. See what I mean by doing it now? Then you don't have to worry. Okay. Next, I'm going to add B00. So let's add that. So here's a little bit that's still underneath, so let's add some there. And then all this space where we put our darkest color, I'm going to flick over the edge of that. And we'll just add some blue. And I think I'll bring this blue up here a little bit past his hat. And I'm going to bring this down a little bit more because it's more over here. Kind of keep it sort of straight across the bottom there. Next, we will add B00. So I'm going to add this the rest of the way. So let's go up here, and I'm going to start a little bit above his hat. And then I'm going to go over my B00. And this will work best too if this particular one is full. Mine's sounding a little squeaky, so it might need to get refilled. But we'll try it here, see how it goes. So I go over this, fling it out here a little bit more. And even though there's no space here, I'm going to still go over that. Same for in here. And then this side, let's bring this color away over here. And we're going to go around this rope and down here towards the bottom. I'm going to say I probably need to fill that up because it's feeling kind of dry. Okay, then we're going to go with our Colors Blender. So again, it'll work best if this is filled up. So I'm going to go right over the top of all those colors. I got a little bit on his finger right here, so I'm going to put my pen down and push this color out of his hand. We don't want his hand to be blue. And then we'll come down here. Same thing, go over all 3 of those colors. And this way I'm going to just put down on top of him. And right here I colored his coat blue, so let's go ahead and erase that. I don't want his coat to be blue. And then I kind of go back, and any places I think maybe need a little bit more, I'll go back over that. But I always give it a couple of seconds to dry. So if I'm doing this side, and then I come over here and do this side, this side will be dry by the time I come back. I'm going to go over this a second time. And then I'm liking how blue that is, so I'm going to leave it like that. Let's go ahead and do his skin next. For that, we're going to use E11, 21, 00, and then for his cheeks, I use R20 and 30. I'm going to zoom down a little bit more so you can get really close. All right, so we're going to start with his hand, and let's go ahead and start with E11, and let's put this right here. So for my E11, when I touch down on the paper, I barely touch the paper. So I'm just going to do a little line here along the bottom of his thumb, and I kind of tap it down and then flick it up away from his hand. And then I'm going to do a little dab right next to his sleeve right here. And then each of these little fingers where they touch, I'm going to put a little dab of color. Next, I'm going to add E21. So now I'm going to touch down on top of my E11. Again, very lightly. I'm barely touching the paper. I'm going to go over those fingers. And then we're going to flick up this way. And then over here, let's flick away from his sleeve. And then we'll fill it in with our E000. So again, I'm going to touch down here at the bottom where I started at E11, and I'm going to very lightly rub over the top of all of those colors. So my pen's just barely touching that paper. And then let's go up here and we'll do this other hand. So again, we're going to start with E11. So let's do, since these are so small, I'm going to just try to touch just a little bit with the end of my pen right along his hand and his coat. And then I'm going to do each finger. So again, I'm barely touching the paper, but I'm making a little line there for his fingers. And then we'll add some E21. So now I'm going to, again, touch down on top of my E11 and lightly flick away. I'm going to fill in his fingers up here and bring it just below those where his fingers come onto the big part of his hand. And then we'll go over the whole hand with E00. Then for his face, I'm going to go ahead and add color a little bit on his ear, and his ear's going to stick out a little bit over here. So I'm going to go ahead and do just a little bit in the center so it looks like he's got a little bit of stuff kind of curls around. It's darker in there. And then up here, I'm going to go away from his hat. So I'm going to flick down away from his hat. So I barely touch the paper. And I flick it towards his nose. And I'll go around over here by his ear. Oops, dropped my pen. Next we'll grab E21. And the same thing, we're just going to add a little bit to his ear. So let's go over our E11. I'm going to leave the top undone so that we can add our E00. And then we'll flick away from the top of his hat. And his scarf here is going to leave a little bit, so I'm going to go right over along the side of his scarf. And where his face would curve, I'm going to give that a little dab of color. Next, we'll add E00. So I'm going to color in his ear. And then we're going to flick away from our E21 at the bottom. And then when I come up here, again, I'm going to go over the last two colors I laid down. And we're going to fill this space in. And I'll probably give it another coat after I do his cheeks, but let's do R20 for his cheek. So over here, I'm going to keep my pen down. I'm going to lay it down beside on the edge of his cheek because it's going to be darker wherever I touch first. There, and then let's do his other cheek where his mouth kind of curls up right here. And again, I touch down in the middle of my little patch that I want for his cheek and then flick away from that middle section. And then let's lighten that with R30. So touch down on top of your R20 and flick away from your circle. Same over here, touch down in the middle, flick away from your circle. And then I come back with my E00. And I'm going to touch down and I'm going to swipe clear across his face. But again, my pen is just barely touching that paper. For his hair, there's not much there, so I'm going to go ahead and just do E44. And that'll work perfect because I colored his hair on this side blue. So I'm just going to color that in. And if I want it to be a little bit darker, I will just give it a little bit of a streak with the same color and give it a few little lines up here at the top. And I'll give it a second to dry. And then I might come back and give it a third little stroke of color just to add a little bit of texture in on his hair there. Let's go ahead and we're gonna let's do his hat with some reds. So for my reds, let me zoom up a little bit. I would get out my color chart and let's go with R39, 37, and then let's go down here to lighten it. So let's go 17. And then I need to get it a little bit lighter, so maybe let's go R05 and then 14. And if you don't have one of these color charts, I highly recommend it. I will put a link to it down in the description box. So I'm going to start with R39. And for his hat, he's got a little crease right here. So let's go ahead and touch right here along the brim. I'm trying not to go outside the lines. If you get this R39 on the other side of that line, it's not going to come off. It's pretty permanent. You might get it a little bit off, but it's not going to come all the way. So let's go ahead and give this little wrinkle up here. And then we're going to go do the same thing over here. Let's bring this line. You can also just draw the line across, and then you have something to touch down on and pull away from, which I like to do. I like to lay my line down, and then I like to come back and so you have something to touch your pin down on, and you don't have to worry so much about coloring on the other side. So that makes it look like it kind of curls over right here. And let's go ahead and bring some up here where his hand is touching the hat, because he's going to be smushing that hat on. So it's going to add a little bit of shadow in here. And I'm just barely using the little pointy part of my pen to touch the paper. And then let's bring this up so it looks like it's got a little bit of a curl, like it's curling under. Let's try that. Next, we're going to do R37. And then we want to soften this edge where we put some color on his hand. I'm just barely making a little bitty spot right past where I left the R39. Over here, same thing, go a little bit past. And then we're going to bring it up along this line. I think I'm going to go over here so it looks like there's a little bit of a line over this way. Next, we're going to add R17. Now I lay down on top of my R39 and pull over R39 and R37. Now let's even up this side by bringing our line out past his hand. Now let's add R05. I'm going to fill in this little section back here. And then we'll go with R14 to fill it in. So now that I'm down to this color, I smooth over his entire hat. So first we're going to lay down right in here. So we're going to fill this section. And then I use this color to smooth down into here. Let's go in here and we'll add some color to the brim. So let's do R39 first. Let's go ahead and fill this little section right here. I'm going to go a little bit right next to his hat. And then we'll add R37. R17. R05. And then we'll fill it in with our R14. And you could make it darker by going over the entire hat with a second coat. I'm going to go ahead and do this little button right up here with my darkest. Okay, so let's go down here and we'll do a scarf. So how about we do a scarf with some red too? So I think I'll do alternate stripes. So let's do R39. So let's start right here. I'm going to say that's probably going to be one stripe. The stripes are kind of willy-nilly on this, so you're going to want to pick a stripe, and then if you make it a stripe a couple of stripes wide, that's cool too. Like you can make this whole section one red one and that one not. Up to you. This one, the lines don't go all the way down, so I'm going to say this is going to be red. And how about right here? And then we'll say this little section. And then we'll come down here and we'll do the second part, but because this one's got a stripe, I'm going to go with the next one just so we can make that a different color. And then let's go over here. This one's kind of skinny, so I'm going to widen this one out. Next we would add R37. And these stripes are pretty skinny, so I'm going to try to hold my pen more straight up and down so that I only use the tip of my pen. Okay, we're not going to make it through all the colors, so I'm going to finish off the scarf with R17. That one I forgot to add the R37 to. And then if you feel that they're not as blended as you like, you could take your R14 and swipe over the whole stripe. And that will help blend all those colors together. For the alternate stripes on his scarf, I'm going to use W3 and 1. So let's go ahead and start with W1 or W3. Now we're just going to add that down here at the bottom where we added the darkest red. And then we will add W1. And on these back ones, I'm not going to go all the way to the top. I'm just going to leave a little bit of white there at the top. Same with these. For his coat, let's use E47, 44, 43, and 42. I'm going to start with E47. Let's do E47 down. Let's do the inside of this, of his coat jacket right here first, because that's the inside. And then down here. And again, if you don't want to go out of the lines, draw your little line here first, and then touch down on top of that line to pull away. And his coat kind of buckles up right here. There's a little seam where his elbow is, so I'm going to give that a little bit extra. Okay, and then over here, same thing. Let's go right along the back. And then we're going to flick away from that line. And right here he's got a little wrinkle, so I'm going to give that a little bit extra. And then here's a coat pocket, so let's give that a little bit of a shadow in there. And then right next to his scarf, we're going to add a little bit of color. I'm going to go ahead and bring this line from his sleeve over here to his jacket, just so it doesn't leave too much of a space right there. And then let's see, let's do this side of his jacket. So let's go right next to his scarf. I'll do a little dab over here next to his scarf. Kind of connect that. Let me turn my boy here. Okay, and so he's got, his jacket is zipped right here, or whatever it's doing. So let's give that a little bit of color right in here. I'm going to bring the zipper all the way up. And then right here, he's got a couple little wrinkles. So I'm just going to give those a little splash of color. And we'll start with that and see how it goes. Next, I'm going to add E44. Let's go ahead and start right over here on this side. And again, he's got his little elbow right here, so I'm going to give that a little bit extra. And then over here, let's pull away from this scarf. And then let's bring this down around next to that bottom cuff. And I'm going to bring this around this underarm. Next, let's add E43. And I usually start with this E43 is quite a bit lighter than E44, so I tend to start further back on my image, so way back here towards the bottom of his arm, and pull it up because it'll soften all this stuff in here. Same for this. So I'm going over E44 and pulling past with my E43. I'm going to fill in this side of his jacket. Excuse me. And then we'll do E42. I don't want to go out of the lines over here, so I'm going to pull first in, and then I'm going to go over the entire sleeve. And even though I did this one, I'm going to go over that. And then let's fill this in. And then let's pull clear across the sleeve over here. And we'll fill in back here. And we'll fill this in. And then again, I'm going to swipe clear over his entire coat back. Right here, there's a little bit of a line right here. So I'm going to give that a little bit of extra flicking. And then give it a second to dry. And if you don't like it, go back over it. I'm going to add a little bit more up here. And then for the cuffs, I think I'm going to start with E43. And then we'll add E42. Let's hop down here and we'll do his pants. So we're going to make those brown too. So let's start with our E47. And let's go with this little seam right here. I'm going to pull this away a little bit more. And I'm going to go underneath this coat right here. And right here where his knees bent down, we're going to give that a little bit of color. And over here, let's do the inside of his pant leg. And next to this boot cuff. And then we're going to go underneath of the jacket. Next we'll do E44. I'll turn my boy a little bit more. I tend to flick if I can flick away from me best. I'm going to make his pants a little bit darker. So let's bring this color out quite a bit. Next, let's add E43. I'm going to fill them all the way in. And this one still got a little bit of a line right here, so I'm going to go over that a second time. And then for his boot cuff, oh, let's do E43 for that too. Let's do, might as well keep it consistent with the coat. And then E42 to fill it in. I think we're going to go ahead and do his boots too. Let's do boots brown. So we're going to go E47 first. And so for his boots, he's got all these great lines right here. Let's go ahead and add some color to these. And then we're going to want some color along the bottom. I'll give a little bit extra right there where his sole is going to be. And let's go underneath of his cuff of his pants right there. And then same for this side. Let's go ahead and do these little lines a little bit. And then let's go along the bottom. Next, I'm going to add E44. And E43. Let's go down here and do this metal part of the sleigh first. So we're going to start with C3. And then we'll add C2. And then I'm going to fill it in with my C1. For this rope, let's try E31. So let's go. And I'm not filling it all the way in, I'm just kind of adding some patches. And then I'm going to go fill it in with my E30. Let's do the sleigh next. So let's try E29. Let's see. Let's go with... Let's go like this way. It's not color. Let's see if we go around this little dot right here, that little nail hole or screw hole. Let's try that, and then let's go for this section. Let's go along the bottom. And over here, I'm going to go along the bottom. Let's do this line right here too. We'll start with that. See how it goes. Next, we're going to add E27. So let's add a little bit on the bottom. And this one's kind of under his shoe, so I'm going to bring that up all the way. Then let's add E25 to fill it in. Oops, I colored over that little knot, but that's okay. We'll call that the color of the screw there. Okay, so that leaves us with the snow down here. So for that, let's try V20, C1, and C00. I'm going to start with V20. And let's see, let's go underneath this. Then we're going to come out kind of the back Let's do these little swoops a little bit. Let's put a little bit of swirls in this little kicked up snow. Okay, let's try that. And then we'll do C1. So we're going to add just some more colors. Let's go, I'm not going to go right over the top of that last one, the V20. I'm just going to add a little bit different stripes in here. Try not to color your sleigh. And next we'll add C00. And then I'm going to go over those with my colorless blender. And I think I'm going to come back with a little bit more of my V20. So there is our Sledding Fun all colored up. Didn't he turn out cute? Don't forget, I'll put a link down in the description box if you'd like to head over and pick him up. If you have a question, leave me a comment and I'll make sure to get back to you. Otherwise, I hope you are having a fabulous day and we'll see you next time. Oh, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Bye-bye.